Adobe released an amazing new option for smart objects in Creative Cloud, which you will be able to find under the File menu, and it's called Place Linked. This leads to creating linked smart objects instead of embedded smart objects. Embedded smart objects are the ones that we already talked about. These are the ones that have their source files saved within the Photoshop documents you are working with, while linked smart objects can have external files as their source files. So let me show you an example how to use this feature. First of all, I'm going to delete the logo from this example because this is an embedded vector smart object. So I'm going to recreate it with a linked smart object. The reason why I'm going to use linked smart object, because I have our 3 compositions here. Let me show you all 3 at the same time. If I go to Window, Arrange, Tile All vertically, for example. So having these 3 images, let's say this is part of an advertisement about adventure and exploration or something like that. So that's why we would like to add the same logo on each of these compositions. But maybe that is not even a logo, more like a badge, and it's designed by an illustrator, and we are not sure whether that's the final version. So we might need to replace it later. In these cases, it's great to use the link smart object, because then if the original file, the logo itself or that vector badge illustration updates, then automatically all the compositions in Photoshop, wherever you use that as an external linked smart object, will also update. So let me show you how it works. I'm going to press Tab just to see again my panels, and I will start on the periscope image here on the left. So I will go to File, Place Linked, and I'm going to look for that image. Let me just make my frame a bit bigger so I can select the logo file. So it's an EPS vector file format. I just choose Place. It should automatically come up here, and I can increase its size holding down the Shift key, and then I press Enter to accept the placement. So there's the logo. I might make this slightly smaller, something like that. So that's placed in there. And the main difference that you will notice is that here in the Layers panel, instead of the usual icon for smart objects, now we see a little link. That means it's a linked smart object. So instead of having it embedded in this Photoshop file, it will always reference that file from my computer. Of course, it's important not to delete that file because then it will become a missing link. So let's just place in the same file into this one here. So I selected the image in the middle, and I will probably place it here at the bottom. So I go to File, Place Linked, and I choose again the same file. So let me just scroll down. There's the image, place, and then just make it bigger once again. That's it. All right. Now let's place it here on the last one. So we go to File, Place Linked once more. Once more, we just have to find it. There it is. And place it in, Shift, click and drag, resize. Now here we have to find a good position for it. Maybe I'm going to have it here in the top left corner. Just as an example, I'm going to just keep it there for now. Now in each example, I might need to use slightly different effects on them to be able to make them visible. Like in the first one, it looks fine the way it is, but here on the second one, definitely I need to add some coloring on it. So I can double click on the layer and then choose color overlay using that white color we used before, which works fine. And on this one here, we can have a closer look and see whether we need to use coloring. Well, to be honest, only this part here is a bit difficult to read. And I'm just going to give myself a bit more space to work by dragging the edge of this image to the left. So now I can turn off the logo, and on this new layer I'm just going to use the spot healing brush tool, maybe make the size a bit bigger, and having the sample all layers option turned on, I can paint over this part here and start removing it. So as you can see, it's really fast. And then just the last bit there, which we need to remove. A couple of times I paint over it and it's gone. So we retouch the tree. Now we have enough space for the logo. I'm just going to rename this layer and call it retouch, just so I remember what I've done there. But if we want, we can also, of course, change the color on the logo. Just going into color overlay again, and instead of using a white color, we can maybe pick a color from the car, something like a darker red, which is also makes it still legible, but it links into the image more because it's using the same color. So we have a black version, we have a white version, and we have a red version of the same logo. Different placement, different size, and we could also use different effects on them. But for now, let's just say this is all I wanted to do. Maybe on this one in the middle, I might add a drop shadow as well. So let's just concentrate on that a bit more. The reason I might add the drop shadow just to make sure that the smaller text is still legible. So double click and add another effect on this, the drop shadow effect. And you can see immediately it helps to make it more easier to read. When I turn it on, I won't even change the settings. I think that's fine. Maybe I can just click and drag it slightly around. Let's see again before and after. Yeah, that reads a little bit better. All right, so now we definitely have 3 different versions here. So now we can save these files. I'm going to just save this one, also select this one, save by pressing Ctrl or Command S. You can quickly save your files. And remember, all of these logos are linked smart objects. They share the same source file, which I have on my computer, that EPS file. And now I'm intentionally going to close one of these files. So let's just close this one here on the right. I will keep the other 2 open at the moment. Just zoom out from this a bit, just so we can see the whole image. That's it. Now, what I'm going to do is to make a subtle change on the file itself. So let's say we decided that we need to make these lines longer in the logo. So we can go into Illustrator and open up the file, so the logo EPS, which should open up the actual file itself. So this is the source that my linked smart objects are using. And then here I'm just going to make a quick change, extend this line and also extend the other line. Let's say we decided to use longer lines there at the bottom. But just to make it obvious, let's make these X's a little bit bigger, something like that. And then now we can just slightly drag the line away from these details. Okay, so that's maybe the change that we wanted to achieve. So now I'm going to save this file. So I go to File, Save. And once it's saved, we can switch back to Photoshop. Here on the right side, you can see already the updated version. So if I zoom a little bit closer, you can see that the lines are longer and the axes are also bigger. On the left, it didn't update yet because I didn't click on that file. Once I click on it, immediately updated. So let's just zoom a little bit closer here as well, we can see. So that's the updated version. If I undo this last step, I can see before and after very easily. So that worked out really nicely. But what happens if we open up now the other documents? I just go to File, Open Recent, and open up the image called Cuba. Now here, if we look at this version of the logo, it's not updated yet because it wasn't open at the time we made the change on the source file. As you can see, there is a little warning sign here, which means that this smart object has to be updated because there has been some changes to the actual source. So if I right click on it, I can choose Update Modified Content. And once it's updated, then it will also show the current state of that vector file. So that's how easy it is to work with linked smart objects. Don't forget, you can only find this option within the Creative Cloud version of Photoshop. But it's also important to know that if you use several linked smart objects, you might want to also use the File Package feature, which can save the PSD file with all the necessary linked smart objects into a folder on your computer. So let me just show this to you. I'm going to save it into my working files folder and then just choose, and then the package is going to be created for this Cuba file. So if I check that folder on my computer, I can already see the Cuba folder within which I have the PSD file, and next to it Photoshop generated a links folder within which I have the logo EPS file. So if I want to continue working with this file on another computer, it's best to save the package and take the whole folder to the other computer. This is also a good way of archiving PSD files, whichever uses linked smart objects. If you use InDesign, it's the same concept there. Every image by default is linked, and then whenever you finish your InDesign file, at the end it's always good to save a package to make sure that everything is in one place. So it's easy to transfer between computers or archive the work on a server, for example. And last but not least, if you use a linked smart object but you change your mind and you want to detach that from the original file and you want to embed the smart object in your current PSD, you can also do that by right-clicking and then choosing Embed Linked. You can even relink to another file if you want, but let me just show you. If we choose Embed Linked, then the icon changed, and now I know that this is an embedded smart object. So if I change the vector file, only the other two files will update, but not this one because this is disconnected. So that's all you need to know about linking smart objects. And let's talk about another very important aspect in the next video, smart filters.